And as we have been the last little while, we'll keep playing with half moon today. So if you need to grab something to pop under your hand for that half moon shape, or if just being aware of where in your space you're going to move when you need that, yeah, just bring that to mind now so it's all ready to go. We don't have to think too hard or make any decisions later on. And then let's make our way down onto our back. So start lying on the back today. Either outstretching the legs or bringing the feet a little wider and resting the knees in together. Just finding that comfortable place to settle in. And you can rest the hands wherever's comfortable, but maybe you want to explore having just one hand on the belly, one hand on the chest. Just feeling that gentle contact from the hands. You might rest your gaze somewhere or gently close the eyes. And feeling perhaps a little bit of that movement underneath the hands from your breath. Gentle rise and fall. For this next hour together this morning, can we let go of any of that self-improvement agenda, any need to push ourselves into changing in any particular way? And instead just having our focus on ourselves as we are right here, right now. Knowing that we're already whole, we're already perfect in so many ways. And the yoga is here to help remind us of that and to help us clear out some of the other stuff that gets in the way of us remembering that or noticing that. And so as you breathe in, just drawing that breath deep down into your body as it is right here, right now. As you breathe out, feeling a softening, a settling, just a releasing down towards the floor, towards the earth underneath you. Let's take a couple more breaths here, just drawing in and releasing down. Perhaps just making note of the way we sort of bookend our practice. We have this little bit of still reflection at the start, our little bit of still reflection at the end. And what we create in the middle is really different to, or for most of us, most of the time, to the rest of our day. We're creating almost like this little cocoon for our practice. Let's just take one last breath like that. And then we'll start off with bridge pose this morning, bringing the feet underneath the knees, setting them nice and flat, having the hands down beside the body now, and exploring with that lift of the pelvis up. Inhale to press into the feet, press into the arms, the shoulders lift up. And exhale to gently release down. Exploring that movement, maybe starting off small this morning if you haven't had a whole lot of movement yet, or you're feeling a little tight anywhere in the body. We're going to take it small, take it slow, and gradually explore what range of movement works best for you. And you can keep it just with the hips, or you can add the arms in as you're ready. For the arms, as we inhale to lift the hips, we also lift the arms up overhead, reaching up maybe all the way to the floor behind if your arms comfortably reach that far. And then with the exhale, that gradual release down. With these bridge lifts, if you feel each time you lift, you're sort of pushing yourself away and you're sliding a little up the floor, maybe try drawing your feet a little closer to your bottom. If on the other hand, as you press up, you feel a bit of a tightness or grabbing in the knees, maybe explore stepping the feet a little further away. We aim for feet underneath, but we want to use our sensations to work out if that's the best option. Let's take one more, just that gentle lift and lower. As we touch down, let's just gently draw the knees into the chest, having maybe a squeeze or a rock side to side, a little bit of movement here. And then when you're ready, rolling over to one side, I'll let you pick the side that seems like the best option. And I'll just reference top and bottom for legs rather than left and right for this next bit. So we're going to come to line our sides. If you happen to have a pillow or a rolled up jumper handy, you could bring it under the head. Curling the arm under often works quite well as well. Once we're set up, we're aiming to have our shoulders, our hips and our feet in one direct line and the knees bend forwards of that line. So nice and steady and supported here. It can be helpful to bring that top hand onto the hip because once we start moving the legs, there's a bit of a tendency to roll open and we want to keep the hips stacked. So having this hand here just gives us that nice reference point. So let's stick the feet together and we're just going to lift and lower the top knee. Just a gentle lift and lower. For most of us, it'll be quite a small movement. And so chances are you might need to let go of the one breath per movement and just find a nice steady breath as you lift and lower. You could slow the movement right down, but you just want to make sure you're not speeding up the breath. If that feels pretty good, you could lift both feet, still keeping them connected, and then lift and lower the top knee from there. It gives us a bit more range to get kind of into those glute muscles. So work out if that feels right for you. You can always come back down if it doesn't. With that smooth, steady breath, let's take 2 more lifts and lowers. On one side, it's just that top leg lifting and lowering with the knee, that's it. And then that top leg, we can rest it down and we can make a fist and sort of give ourselves a bit of a massage or a pummel around that top outer hip if that works for you. This time we're going to take the legs in the opposite direction. So we're going to stick the knees together and we're going to lift and lower the top foot. So you might notice with the thigh, you can even put your hand on that top thigh. The front of the thigh sort of rolls in a little. It's an internal rotation in the hip. It's not a common direction for us to move, so it might feel a little strange. Let's just take 2 more like this. And then we're going to add both of those movements together. So we'll start with a lift of the foot. Then we lift the knee, so the whole top leg's lifted. We touch back down with the foot and then down with the knee. So up with the foot, up with the knee, down with the foot, and down with the knee. And you can keep that as 4 distinct movements, just doing it exactly the same way, as big or as small as you need. Or you could try and smooth it out so it's like one sort of continuous flowing cycle through. Let's take 1 more of those cycles. And then we'll let that top leg just rest and relax down. Again, if you want to bring that hand around and give the bottom or the outer thigh a little pummel, you can definitely do that. And then from here, we'll take some circles with the top arm. So we'll extend it long over the thigh. We're going to reach around up in front of the body. Nice big circle here. Carving overhead and then reaching away behind. And so if you need to adjust the size of these circles or you want to bend the elbow and lead more with the elbow, you can definitely do all of that. And it's up to you if you stay facing directly, in front as you are now, just circling the arm using that shoulder joint. Or as you come with the hand up overhead, you could twist open a little towards the ceiling and reach away behind from that twisting shape. You'll feel maybe a bit more of a stretch through the chest. Perhaps a little on the side of the body or the back. So work out if that works for you, if you'd rather stay still through the body and just move the arm. And then the next time we come up and over, we're going to transition into a quad stretch. So bringing the arm up, over, away behind, helping us to keep the shoulder open and reach back for the top foot. So lift the top leg, holding onto the top toes, the foot, the ankle, whatever fits best. And then we'll let this top knee come down a little and we're going to find the place that feels like the best stretch. So you might want to adjust around. Is it pointing straight down? Do you want to lift forwards, lift up a little? Once you find a nice amount of stretch through the front of the top hip, just settle with your breath here. Let's just take 1 more breath on this side. And then gently releasing. So releasing the foot gently, Letting the leg come down, and we'll gradually make our way up over to the other side, whether you just roll in your space or whether you want to come up and over. So we stack ourselves again on the other side this time, top hip directly over bottom hip. You can use that hand there just for that kind of outside awareness of where the hip actually is. And then when you're ready, let's find those clam lifts, feet connecting together, that top knee lifting and lowering. And as before, if that doesn't feel like quite enough for you, feel free to lift both feet and then lift and lower the top knee from there. Making sure the breath can stay smooth and steady, even if it's not exactly one breath per movement. Let's take 2 more of this one. As that leg comes down, let's connect the knees and then lift and lower that top foot, feeling that roll in of the top thigh. So ones like this where we really isolate different parts of the movement can be really helpful reference points. So this rolling in, this internal rotation of the thigh that you feel here or you might notice here. When we come into other poses and we talk about that internal rotation, this gives you kind of an awareness of what that looks like or maybe what that feels like. So when you're ready, let's lift the foot. Now let's lift the knee, lowering the foot and lowering the knee. Lifting the foot, lifting the knee, lowering the foot, lowering the knee. And then again, continuing on either 4 distinct movements or starting to find that little bit of flow, smoothing out so it becomes this really nice cycle. Knowing that you can make the actual movement itself bigger or smaller. But if you're trying to smooth it out, how smooth and even can you make it? Can you take as much time to lower as you did to lift? Let's do one last time through. Letting that top leg rest down. If you want to give it a little pummel, a little rub, go for that. And then let's find those arm circles. So top arm long over the body, reaching up in front of the body, overhead and away behind. And as you find those arm circles, whether you stay directly to the side or you open up, find a rhythm with your breath. For me, I quite like inhaling as the arm comes up in front of the body and starting the exhale just as the arm goes overhead and you feel that stretch, that intensity in the shoulder. Let's take 2 more full cycles with the arms, smooth and steady. And then the next time we come up and over, let's gently transition into that quad stretch. Picking up the top foot, see if we can reach back for it here. Holding on and then adjusting that knee, finding that nice point for stretch in the front of the top thigh. And if for any reason it doesn't work to hold on to the foot, maybe lift up the leg and just step it a little away behind. You could touch down with the toes and slide it back as far as you need to feel that stretch. If that's a better option for you, you can go for that one. Just trying to find some sense of length in the front of the top thigh. Let's take one more smooth, steady breath. And then gently releasing. Bringing the top leg down. Then let's press ourselves up to all fours, gradually making our way up. Coming over onto all fours and just taking a few breaths of some movement here. You might come straight into your cat and cow. You might prefer some circles here, just whatever feels good for your spine this morning. Feel free to just go free flow and move around however you like. And then let's make our way towards downward dog, tucking all the toes under. Pushing strongly into the hands, and we'll take the hips up high. Feel that press from the fingers, from the base of the hands, all the way to the hips, really long in the spine. Bend the knees however much you need. And that smooth, steady breath here. And then let's transition ourselves upright. So we'll walk the hands back towards the feet, coming to our standing forward fold. Once you arrive, bending into the knees and slowly rolling up to stand, arms hanging heavily or walking up the body. As we come upright, let's make our way to the front of our space, setting up in mountain pose, feet solidly into the floor, nice soft bend in the knees. If you want to bring your hands towards your legs or out in front, you draw up tall through the spine. Let's inhale, reach the arms up overhead. And today, instead of our side bends, let's explore a twist here. So just from this lifting position, rotate the chest around to the left, keeping the arms about shoulder width apart. So I'm going to inhale to come back to center. Exhale, twisting to the right. See if we can stay front facing through the hips and just twist from the belly upwards. So take that a couple of times. Inhale to center, exhale. Just a gentle rotation away to the left. And again, around to the right. We'll come back to center and find that standing back bend. Palms facing forward, shoulder width apart. Engaging the bottom here as we take the gaze up. Can you breathe smoothly here? If you can and you'd like a little more, maybe draw the gaze back across the ceiling, keeping the arms next to the ears, reaching long. Just check wherever you've ended up, you can still breathe. Let's take one more full breath. Inhale, we'll come back upright, and exhale, we'll fold. Knees bending, belly to thighs here, folding over the legs. And finding that child's pose-like quality. We didn't have our little pause in child's pose, so maybe let's take it here. Feeling the way the torso can rest on the legs. Maybe the head can hang heavy. That gives you any dizziness or discomfort. Just bring the gaze in front of the feet. You can always come straight down to all fours if you need to earlier. We feel that sense of length in the back of the body, length from the heels all the way up to the hips. Even with that bend in the knees, we can often still feel that stretch. And then from the hips all the way up through the spine to the crown of the head. Let's take one more breath here. And then looking at the feet, let's step the right foot straight back, finding our low lunge. So front knee over ankle, pressing strongly through both feet. Whether your hands are on the floor or the leg, just find that best fitting option for you. We relax the shoulders down away from the ears and draw long through the crown of the head. And then let's find, if you like to, we can take one arm flow here. So breathing in to reach out and up. Breathing out, coming gently down in front of the heart. And then we can bring ourselves to lizard lunge. So both hands coming down on the inside of the front leg. You might want to squiggle that left foot over a bit. We've got the left arm wrapping around the outside, the left leg wrapping around the outside of the left arm. And you can stay directly here. If it feels way too much, you can come back up to the thigh, or you can always find hooks or blocks to bring under the hands. That'll often make it a little more comfortable. If you are comfortable here and you want a little more, you want to explore some movement, inhale, let's roll the left knee out to the side, just gently rolling onto the outer edge of the foot. And exhale, we squeeze it back in towards the arm. Just to inhale to gently ease the knee out a little and squeeze back in. Just take a couple more breaths here, whether you're taking that extra movement or you're staying in your lizard lunge. Just one more breath. And then let's step back for plank. So pressing that front leg around the outside. Setting ourselves up here, shoulders over wrists, strong through the hands. Can we create that lift, that space in between the shoulder blades? Pressing the chest up away from the floor. Let's just take a breath or two here this morning. Rather than moving, let's stay in our plank. If you want to tuck the toes and bring the knees up to find a little more intensity here, you're very welcome to. Just seeing all that strength within the body, the strength through the hands, the arms, the shoulders, down the length of the body to the legs and the feet. Can we take a couple more breaths here, just 2 breaths, aware of this sense of strength. And then let's tuck the toes, drawing the hips back long. Can we get a bit of a sense of a pull here? Can we feel the pressure release from the hands? It's still connected, but a lot lighter through the fingers, the hands, the wrists here. Maybe even feeling like that weight that's shifting back in the hips is kind of pulling a bit of length through the wrists. The hands are anchored forwards and the arms are pulling back. Let's take one more breath here. And then we'll transition through the Sphinx. If you want to bring the elbows down and take that slide forwards leading with the heart, you definitely can. If that doesn't work and you want to come back over to your plank and lower down from there, go for that. And from that child's pose, if you'd rather arch over the top and come down. And we'll all end up in Sphinx. Elbows under shoulders, forearms firmly connected, connecting through the tops of the feet, the front of the hips. And really relaxing the shoulders down away from the ears. We're going to explore this morning a bit of side to side in our cobra. So inhales will bring us back to center. Exhales, we're going to look over one shoulder. I'm going to go to the right side first, but pick whichever side makes the most sense. So inhale, we come back to center. Exhale, just looking over the opposite shoulder. Options to explore here that might give you a different sensation: to take the feet a little wider. It might feel better, it might feel not so good. And if you want to explore a bit more of the back bend here, you could lift both elbows, and that gives you the space to sort of bend into the elbow as you look away. So the side that you look to, the opposite elbow can sort of bend out to the side to give you a bit of movement in the chest, a bit more of that twist. Only exploring that if it feels right for you. You can definitely do it with both elbows firmly on the floor. And of course, if it doesn't feel great for you for any reason, feel free to leave it out altogether and just take a couple more breaths in that neutral position. Let's go once more to each side, just feeling into the sensations here. Coming back to center, let's roll and release down to the floor, stacking the hands underneath the forehead. We can bend both knees here and sway the feet side to side. Just a little bit of release movement for the hips, the lower back. Let's come back to neutral and gradually make our way to downward facing dog. As always, you can press straight up from the floor, or you can come to all fours first. Tucking the toes under here, pressing strong through the hands. Can you feel that sense of softening or releasing through the heels, even with that bend in the knees? Let's play with that here. So let's lift the heels up a little, coming up a little more into the balls of the feet, and then relaxing the heels down. It's a little like our pedal, but we're exploring kind of both legs at once, and not so much focusing on the bend in the knees, but rather lift and lower through the heels. Just tune into any sensations there through the soles of the feet, the heel, the back of the ankle, the back of the legs. And then from wherever you are, we're going to make our way forwards with that right leg. So you can bend the knee into the chest and step it through. You could bring the knees down, bringing the right leg forwards from there. Ending back up in our low lunge, right knee under ankle. Firm connection down through the feet. Do you stay on the floor here or do you reach up onto the thigh? Either way, long through the spine, crown of the head drawing away from the hips. If you're up on the thigh and you'd like to take one cycle with the breath, let's do that now. Inhale, reaching up tall. Exhale, coming back down. And let's all make our way to our lizard lunge. So bringing that right arm around inside the right leg. Maybe squiggling the right foot over a little to create space for the shoulders and the arm there. And again, if you need to add any extra props, extra height here, you can do that. If you really wanted to explore that depth and maybe find the forearms, you could go for that as well. And then if you want to bring movement here, let's inhale, draw the knee just a little out to the side, rolling a little onto the edge of the foot, and exhale, squeeze back in. Really paying attention to what's happening in that right hip, using those sensations to work out. Are you perhaps pushing it a little too far? Or is there a little further you could explore? Let's take 2 more. Beautiful. Let's take that foot back inside the hands and we'll make our way up to our standing forward fold, lifting the back knee, perhaps a little bit of rock for momentum, and then stepping both feet up together. Hip width apart, belly and thighs meeting together here. And softening down. You could take your favourite version for the hands here on the floor or holding opposite arms. If you'd like to explore something different, you could interlace the fingers, bringing the hands onto the back of the head and just let them rest there. We're not pushing the head down, we're just using that really gentle weight of the hands. It brings the chin perhaps a little more tucked and it can feel like a nice amount of stretch down the back of the neck and the upper back. If it's intense and you're not feeling like you can maintain that smooth, steady breath, you're not feeling comfortable here, just release and find one of those other options. Let's take one more smooth, steady breath. Then releasing the hands back down. Let's bend the knees and look forwards and drive up strong through the hips. Arms coming up overhead. Hands finding their way back down to center. Maybe finding a spot to rest your gaze. Or closing your eyes gently here. Just taking a moment to appreciate everything the body did through that salute to the sun. It moves and impacts so much of the body. The fact that we're here and we're able to move through it means there's a lot going right for us. And perhaps for a moment, thinking ahead, if we're lucky enough to live for a while longer, just imagining yourself at 80, looking back at everything your body can do now, and that sense of wonder and gratitude and appreciation, and seeing if we can find that in ourselves as we are right now, rather than waiting until perhaps we have more limited mobility to appreciate what we've got right now. Just take a couple of breaths, drawing in that sense of wonder and gratitude, letting it settle in the body. And then we can gently release the hands, finding a bit of a squeeze and release, a bit of a roll here. Beautiful. Let's come into a bit of a standing sequence. So from the front of your space, we're going to come into a knee lift. So let's start by grounding the left leg and stepping the right toes forwards. You can keep the toes touching down or you can bring the knee up any amount. You can lift it to wherever you can kind of maintain the balance, maintain that strength in the leg. Tall through the spine here, smooth, steady breath. Just finding that sense of balance. And then we're going to make a slow transition. So we start to tilt the body forwards and we extend the right leg away behind. And we're going to turn it into a lunge, but we're only going to lightly tap down. Woo. We're going to keep most of our balance, most of our body weight through this front leg because we're going to come almost straight back into that knee lift. Again, you can step the toes forwards or lift them. And then from here, we're going to turn it into our active tree. So from that knee lift, we're going to come out to the side. And it doesn't matter if that lower leg goes straight down or you want to tuck it in, up to you. But then we're going to come back around to our knee lift and come back through that cycle again. So we come from our knee lift, back to our high lunge, back forwards to our knee lift, and then that active tree. So just coming through that sequence. And if you need to touch down at any stage as you come through, you definitely can. So there's a few things going on. We're focusing on the balance and particularly the strength in this left leg. We're also doing a lot of different directions with this right hip. Engaging the glutes as we draw out to the side. Beautiful. And when you come out to that side, just checking in that this left hip stays facing forwards. We don't want to sort of come into this rotation through the whole body. As much as possible, we're just taking the knee out, even if that means it's a smaller movement. Let's make this one our last. The next time you come into that active tree, we're going to come back to center and then release it down. Just have maybe a bit of a pedal here, maybe a roll of that left ankle. And we'll take it over to the other side. So we're going to ground down through the right foot this time, the left toes come forwards, touching down or lifting. Find that height, find that balance here first with your smooth, steady breath. And then let's start that transition. Back to our high lunge first of all, touching down but lightly. And then pressing back up to our knee lift. And then out to the side for our active tree. With our high lunge, you can take that foot back as far as you like. The further you go back, the more challenging it's likely to be for the balance. Can you find a rhythm with your breath here? Just a smooth, steady breath. A rhythm that works for you, that helps give you a little bit of focus, a little bit of rhythm for the movement. Let's do one more full cycle through. And we'll finish off as we did last time with that active tree. Then coming gently back to center and down. Bit of a pedal here. Nice work. All right, let's come back to the first side. So we're going to ground through the left foot, taking the right foot back, and this time coming down in our high lunge, settling more evenly with the weight between the two legs. So can we bend into this front knee, having it right over the ankle, strong through both feet here. I'm going to use our arm flow to explore our depth in our lunge. So as we breathe in, we'll reach out and up, straightening the front leg. As we breathe out, coming back down into that lunge, however deep you like. We're going to be moving for a little while. Use those bends in the knees, use the strength in the legs. Slowly lower into that lunge, paying attention to how it feels. Let's do two more. Beautiful. As we come back down, let's find our warrior one stance. So this back foot's going to come flat on the floor. We want this knee to stay over the ankle and we still stay facing the front. And what often happens, if we try and go from our high lunge to flattening the foot, we sort of want to come into our warrior two, we want to spin open. So what can be really helpful is to step the back foot out to the side a little more, coming flat and having the toes more towards 45 degrees or towards the front rather than pointing straight out. That's going to want to turn our hips when we turn the toes that way. So just a couple of things to bear in mind as you're feeling into those sensations. And then let's find our pyramid pose. So we're going to lengthen the front leg. We don't want to lock the knee. We've got a slight bend. Tall through the crown of the head as we reach the heart forwards, tilting into this shape. We're aiming to feel a stretch down the back of the leg here. So I like to come forwards until I can feel that stretch and then just bring the hands down wherever you ended up. So you might reach the thigh, some of you might reach the shin, maybe even the floor. But we're pressing strong into both feet and this left hip is easing away behind us just to help create that sense of length here. And while we're here, these sort of back of the leg stretches can feel quite intense. Can you send your breath into that stretch? Each time you breathe in, can you visualize, can you imagine sending that breath, that sense of space around the stretch there? And just watch what happens for the next couple of breaths. Nice work. All right, let's bend into the front knee. We're going to use the front foot to drive us back up tall. We're going to pick up the back heel so we come more back into our lunge, holding the back foot in a little, and we're going to move into our dancer's pose from here. So option one is to stay right where you are with the legs, feel into that length in the front of the back leg, and lift the right hand up tall. We want right hand? No, I think we want left hand. Left hand up tall, that's definitely right. So that's option one. If you want to from here, you can launch into that front foot and pick up the back foot from there. You can definitely step back together and come up as we normally do. If you want a bit more of a challenge with that entry, see if you can press into it from here. And again, you can stay right here, stay upright, feeling that length in the front of the leg, or you could start to explore, tilting the body forwards and pressing that back foot up away behind, finding that dancer's pose. And if you've used props, if you've had a strap around the foot other weeks and that's worked really well, you can definitely bring that in here. We'll stay for a few breaths, so feel free to have a play around with it. Find that best option for you this morning. Let's take one more full breath here. And then we'll gently come upright, bringing the arm down, the leg down. Perhaps a pedal here, maybe stepping the feet out a little and taking a little rotation before we come through the other side. Beautiful. And then we'll come back to the front of our space, stepping back with the left leg this time, finding that high lunge first of all. Front knee over ankle, strong through both feet, feeling into that stretch here in the hip flexor. And then let's move it with our breath. Inhale, reaching out and up, lengthening the legs. Exhale, bending back into it. Exploring that depth with the breath, with the movement. Beautiful. Let's take one more. And then releasing the hands, and we'll turn it into our warrior one stance. So bringing that back foot down. If you need to shuffle the foot out wider, go for that. Still facing towards this front knee with the knee over the ankle. And generally speaking, with our pyramid pose, we want slightly narrower. So if you feel like you're in your warrior one stance, but you're, pushing the edge of what feels okay, maybe hop that back leg in a little, explore a shorter stance. As we start to straighten the front leg, we're not locking the knee. Tall through the spine, proud through the chest as we gently fold forwards. Coming as far down as you need to feel a nice amount of stretch there. And then just bringing the hands down for support wherever they end up. Can we press strongly into the right foot, feeling the right hip extending long away behind? Finding a smooth, gentle breath here. And then again, let's gently ease out, bending into the front knee, driving through the front foot to bring us upright. And we'll make our way towards that dancer's pose on this side. So if you know where you're going, feel free to come through as you're ready. Otherwise, we hop the back foot in a little. Remembering we can stay here, feeling that length in the front of the back thigh. Maybe you lift the right arm up tall. And then maybe you hop into it, gently pressing ourselves upright as we bring the foot in. Or come into it however makes the most sense for you. You could stay upright or start to find that tilt forwards. Using the back foot to press up away behind. Don't just pull from the arm. We really want to strengthen and lift through the leg. And we can do that in any of the other positions. If you're upright, you can press your foot back into the hand a little. If you've got the foot down, you can press the foot down into the floor here. Really focus on that engagement with this back leg in whatever position it's in. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Beautiful work. Let's gently release. Bringing the hand down, bringing the foot down. a little pedal or any other movements that feel right for you. Beautiful. All right, we're going to come into a chair pose. Before we do, just making sure you're about, let's say about a metre and a half away from your support. I'm going to go this way first. You can tilt whichever way you like, but just be aware of where that is because we're going to move into our half moon in a moment. But we'll start with our chair pose in the middle. So we've got our feet hip distance apart. Let's sit the hips back, that crease here in our hip lines. Checking in with that space in the lower back that we're long through the spine here. We're comfortable with the breath. And let's focus on that imaginary block. So we've got this imaginary block in between the legs and we're squeezing into it here. Can you feel that sort of engagement around the outer hip through the thighs? And then we're going to add a little more subtlety. So if this feels like enough, just know that you can just focus on squeezing into the block. If, however, you feel like you've got a handle on that, I want you to see if you can imagine squeezing the back of the thighs into the block a little more than the front. And you can even bring your hands onto the thigh and see if doing that gives you a slight sense of an external rotation, slight sense of the top of the thighs just rolling out a little. It's all very, very subtle. Can you breathe still while you're doing that? If you've forgotten the breath, just release that focus on the rolling and come back to the breath. Beautiful, nice work. All right, let's take one last breath here. And then we'll release. We'll drive into the feet. We'll come up tall. Maybe a bit of a wiggle here. And then we're going to step the feet out wider. We're going to find our goddess pose, our squat here. So turning the feet out a little. Checking as you bend into the knees that the knees track in the same direction as the feet. And then finding that depth. We'll be here for a few breaths, probably about the same length we're in our chair pose. And again, as you come down, just check there's some length in the lower back. These lowest ribs are tucked in line with the body. And we're going to come into the same kind of engagement. So you could imagine that you've got, you know, one of those big bouncy fit balls. You've got it in between the thighs here and you're squeezing into that. Like we do with our chair pose, our knees don't move at all. We just get this sense of pulling in. And usually it feels like an engagement in the glutes and the outer thighs. If you feel like you've got a handle on that, maybe try that same idea where the bottoms of the thighs roll into the ball a little more than the top. We get this really slight external rotation through the thighs. Again, if that all feels too much and you can't breathe while you're doing that, just come back to the breath. Let's take one more breath here. And then we're going to draw our legs up straight. And we're going to make our way towards half moon. So whichever side your support is on, that foot is going to turn directly towards it. You might need to spin the other foot as well. We're going to hop this back leg a little further in. And then start our tip towards our half moon. So just adjust your support if you need to, or adjust yourself in or out. Bringing the bottom hand down onto the support. And then let's explore half moon. So if you like, you can lift and lower the top leg, bending into the bottom knee as you come down, reaching and stretching up, and then touching down again. If that feels really good and you want to find a place to stay, you can hold in your half moon as well. And from either of those options, we can add the arm. So if you're holding, you can extend the arm up. If you're lifting and lowering, maybe bringing the arm down as the leg comes in, and then pressing up and open into that shape again. Lots of different options to play with. Make sure you've got that smooth, steady breath, whichever option you're taking. And can you feel a nice amount of space along that underside of the body? Make sure we can press firmly into our support. We can press firmly through the bottom leg. Just taking one more breath there if it's still working for you. And then let's gently release down. Just taking that bit of time to reset here. You might roll through the shoulders, you might take a little spin here as well. And it looks like you're having some tech issues this morning. If you want to do one side and take a little time there and then catch up with us on the other side, go for it. And then we'll come through briefly through that chair pose and that goddess pose again. So starting with the hip width apart, bending into the chair pose, squeezing into that imaginary block here. And see if we can get that sense of rolling back of the thighs more into the block as the top of the thighs roll out there ever so slightly. Let's draw ourselves upright and we'll find that goddess spot. We'll take the feet a little wider, turn the toes out slightly enough to be in line with the knees as we come down. And then again, can we find that sense of squeezing and engaging into something? You can even bring your hands to the inner thighs to sort of feel the legs pushing into the hands. Again, they're not moving, but sometimes just that external feedback can be really helpful for the body in working out which direction we're trying to move. Taking one more breath here. And then we'll gently rise up. Bending the feet in. And we'll make our way to our half moon on the other side. So if you need to spin around or you need to move your supports, just making sure it's roughly a metre away from the centre of your body, or you'll know that. So the distance that works for you now. Let's turn the foot towards the support. We can hop the back leg in a little as we bring the bottom arm down. And then again, do you want to play with lifting and lowering here, bending into that bottom knee as you come down, pressing, lifting, opening as you come up? Or do you want to stay here at any degree, any angle that works for you, really lifting up away from the floor? And maybe you add the top arm in. Just finding that option that works for you here. Beautiful length through the underside of the body there, Chris. Nice work. Just taking one more full steady breath. And then gently releasing down. All right, let's make our way down to sit. And we'll come all the way down onto our backs. So you could plant the feet, extend the arms long and roll down gradually if you're looking for that little bit of extra engagement through the core. Or we can ease our way down to the floor. Once we come down, maybe just a draw of the knees in towards the chest, a little bit of a rock side to side here. And we're going to have a play around with our eagle legs. So first thing we can do is bring the left foot down to the floor and cross the right thigh up and over the legs. The thighs hug together. It's like our twist position, but we're not moving into our twist just yet. Now this is option one. We can keep the bottom leg touching down on the floor, or we can lift both feet and sort of stack the knees roughly over the hips. Then from whichever position you're in, we're going to slowly uncross the legs. So we kind of weave the legs apart, bring that top leg over and away. If you've got the feet lifted, you can move the bottom leg away. And we're going to gradually make our way all the way around so the left leg crosses over the right. And we're just going to move back and forth like that. So if you've got the bottom foot down, as you bring the top foot down, let's just gently lift the other one. Gentle crossing. And a couple of things to watch for is that our back doesn't arch off the floor. So you might have a natural curve in your spine and a bit of a lift away from the floor normally, but we want to make sure the spine doesn't lift any more. If you're finding that happening, make the movement smaller or maybe touch down that bottom foot if you're not already. If it's feeling really good, what you can do is really explore the depth of that movement. So you could lift the legs higher, take them out wider as you cross them around, as long as that back can stay steady and stable. And the breath can stay smooth and steady. You can have the hands beside you. You can have them out wide for a little more support. Let's just take a couple more in each direction. And then we're going to pause the next time the right leg comes over the left. And we're going to turn this into our twist as we normally do. So we'll touch down with the left foot. We'll bring the hips a little bit to the right and then fold both legs away to the right. Maybe the gaze stays at the ceiling. Maybe it moves away to the right hand. Finding that smooth, steady breath. And then let's come back to center, swapping the legs over. Hips back to center and then away to the left. As the legs fold to the right. The gaze could be up at the ceiling or gently away to the left hand. As we settle in here, start to feel that sense of winding down, slowing down. Maybe each exhale is a little longer, a little bigger to help support that release through the body. And then let's make our way back to center. Crossing the legs. We'll take some low back releases, just bringing the hands up over the kneecaps, fingers pointing towards the toes. Really small circles in the knees here. Or if it works better for you to have the feet on the floor, just really small side to side movements. And then let's take those circles in the other direction if you've got the feet lifted. Just feeling into those sensations at the back of the hips and the lower back. And then let's take bigger circles now. Bring it around. Noticing how those bigger movements feel. And taking those around in the other direction as well if you're using those circles. And then coming back to center, just taking any last movements that feel right for you. So it could be a hug of the knees into the chest. It could be happy baby pose with the soles of the feet extending up. You could stretch out long and take a little bit more of that side to side. Just whatever you feel like your body needs here for a few moments. And gently making our way over to one side. Resting ourselves, not pressing ourselves up, finding our way to our comfortable resting place. Describing what I was doing rather than what you might be doing. So settling in, using whatever props or supports you need for your comfortable relaxation. You're welcome to sit, you're welcome to lie down, finding whatever you need this morning. Just letting the hands rest wherever's most comfortable. As the eyes perhaps gently close or find that soft focus. Now I invite you to join me for a clearing breath. So big, full, deep breath in. Big sigh out. And as we let our breath find its natural, gentle rhythm, just reminding ourselves of our physical body here in this space, feeling into the points of contact, the support for our body through the floor, through the earth underneath us. Just reminding ourselves of the presence of this amazing mind that can experience so many different things and can also notice these experiences and take that step back and become the observer of what's happening within us and around us. Noticing perhaps as well this presence of some part of us that's beyond the physical body and beyond the mind, whether you've got a word or a concept around that or not. Just allowing it to be mysterious, allowing it to be something that is just gently present. And as we draw each breath in, perhaps we can notice or imagine ourselves drawing this breath into each part of ourself, each layer of ourself. Each breath out, providing the opportunity to let go of tightness or tension in whatever layer of the self that it's happening. And if our thinking mind decides to take us off elsewhere, our noticing mind can just gently become aware of that. Gently shift our focus back to this awareness of the breath through the body, through the mind, through that part of us that's beyond both of those things. So we take a few moments in stillness here. And slowly, gently bringing your mind's eye back to the space that you're in. Letting the breath draw in a little deeper. And when you're ready, you might like to find some movement in your fingers and your toes. Maybe finding some movement in the body. And to bring movement into the arms and the legs in whatever way works best for you. And gently, gradually bringing yourself back to a tall, comfortable seat. Taking your time through that transition. I invite you to join me for one last flow with the arms, breathing in, reaching out, up overhead. Breathing out, bringing the hands back down to the heart. And seeing if you can find within your own heart this morning the gratitude for this time that you've taken, this space that you've created, this focus and intention that you've cultivated. Knowing that we carry all the benefits of this with us into the rest of our day, into the rest of our week. As we do so, may we remember we are whole, we are beautiful, we are perfect, just as we are in this moment. Even if we have to keep reminding ourselves and re-remembering. My heart to yours, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a really lovely day. Thank you. Thank you.